For any new startup or scale-up to thrive, a solid grasp of cost control and pricing strategy is vital. Many new enterprises stumble because they don't fully understand their product and true operating costs, or they fail to set a price that balances profit with sales volume. This film will introduce you to the common methods for costing and pricing so that you can equip your students with knowledge that's crucial for their future success. It's a harsh reality that many new businesses fail due to a lack of understanding of their product and operating costs. Even with strong sales, a business won't survive if it doesn't control its costs. Costs can be categorised into two ways: variable or fixed and direct or indirect. Variable costs change with production volume, while fixed costs remain the same regardless of how much you produce. Direct costs are specifically tied to the production of a product, whereas indirect costs are incurred whether or not a product is made. It's important to remember that these cost types apply to software and engineering services too. For instance, software variable costs can include hosting and bandwidth, with customer support being an indirect cost. Start by asking students to consider the costs in their own lives, like household expenses or insurance. Then carefully explore the definitions in the cost matrix to ensure they understand how a cost can be both direct and variable. Consider a practical example, like machining a metal block in a workshop, and break down the costs involved. Organising costs as direct or indirect, fixed or variable, allows businesses to calculate the marginal and absorption cost of a product or service. Marginal costing is crucial for making informed decisions about production and pricing, while absorption costing helps in understanding profits and controlling costs. Both calculations start with the prime cost, which is the variable direct cost of labour and materials for one unit. Marginal cost then adds variable indirect costs like energy and maintenance to the prime cost. This helps in pricing, especially when considering discounts, by ensuring variable costs are covered and contribution to overheads. Absorption costing, on the other hand, adds a portion of fixed cost to the marginal cost, giving a fuller picture of profitability. To help your students get to grips with marginal and absorption costing, you could use the example in the learner resource to illustrate how each cost type contributes to the overall cost. Discuss how some labour costs can be direct, such as machining, while some can be indirect, like maintenance labour. Emphasise how marginal costing informs pricing decisions, particularly for discounts. Contrast this with absorption costing, which determines the true profitability of a product. To check your students' understanding, ask them to suggest a reason to use marginal costing when pricing a product. To make a profit, the selling price must, of course, be higher than the costs. Setting the right price involves balancing production costs, profit expectations, customer demand, competitor pricing, customer perception, and regulations. Common pricing models include cost-plus pricing, adding a fixed markup to costs; value pricing, setting the price based on perceived customer value compared to competitors; feature pricing, offering different price points for product options with varying features. Now, it's important to distinguish between a pricing model, how you set the price, and a revenue model, which is how customers pay, such as direct sales, subscription, or leasing. Stress that many businesses fail because their selling price doesn't cover their costs. An effective price balances profit per unit with sales volume. Explore the examples of pricing models and discuss their advantages and disadvantages, and discuss some existing businesses that use these models. Let's pull this all together with a case study you can look at with your students before getting them to use the product costing and pricing online interactive tool to answer some key questions. Widget Co. produces high-pressure metal gaskets and seals. The sales team needs to understand how changes in production and costs affect direct, marginal and absorption costs when negotiating contracts. When using the product costing and pricing online interactive tool, students should first assign each production cost as direct, variable or fixed. This will allow them to find the direct, marginal and absorption cost per unit for a production run of 1,000 units. Students can then use the tool to change the number of sales units, production lines or specific costs to see how this will affect different unit costs before talking through their choices. You can also discuss how long-term changes in material, energy and rent will influence costs and therefore longer-term revenue and profit projections. Mastering product costing and pricing is essential for any engineer involved in enterprise. By understanding how to categorize costs, calculate different costing methods, and apply appropriate pricing models, your students will be well equipped to make sound financial decisions. This knowledge is a cornerstone of building sustainable and profitable engineering businesses. Good luck, and feel free to revisit any of the films and resources to recap.